What if I told you that fear isn't your enemy and that actually when it arises and come around, that it's actually proof that something bigger, greater, and bolder is on the horizon? Well, today, that's what we're going to talk about. Not just how to name your fear, but to tame your fear. And the goal is so that we can understand that we got receipts to know that we deserve what it is we're going after. There's proof there. We were sent on assignment, and the one that sent us is in control of everything. So the truth is, we already won. But because we know that fear doesn't have a problem with sitting in the dark, it does its best work in the dark. We must do what I'm calling get receipts. So let's talk about it. The point of the video is to allow us to understand that fear is going to come up, especially when you're doing something great, especially when you're doing something unfamiliar, and especially when you know that you've been called by God. Fear is going to come up, but this is also where faith should always trample on fear's neck. You did? Because God sent you. So, while fear can leave us stuck and afraid to move forward from faith, I wanted to break down a step by step process on how we can not only name our fear, we can understand our calling and align it with the truth that God sent us. And I'm going to show you how to do it all with my framework, which I call a R.E.A.L framework. So, by the end of the video, you're going to have clarity, confidence, and you're going to have those receipts that you need so that next time fear shows up, if you have to go back and get new receipts, you can, or you can leverage the ones that you already have. So let's jump into it. Number one, name to tame the fear. So this is because we know that fear really thrives in the darkness, right? If you don't mention it, if you don't search for it, it's going to be ooh, right? It's literally like that. It shows up, it makes these sounds because you haven't addressed it and you're too scared to address it because you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And so it thrives in the darkness. But today we're going to learn how we got to name that thing in order to tame that thing, right? And so, what we're going to do, the first step at doing this entire process is to write down or name what it is that has had you essentially in the chokehold. When does it come up? How much has it cost you? What have you been losing because you've been operating from fear? When you get this list, um, you can now identify what it is you're scared of, or even if it is a real thing. But the whole point of it is to name it so that we can tame it and we can move forward. So you got that, number one. Number two is list the risk. So because we know fear is literally trying to get you to operate from a lack mentality, a place of deficiency. I don't have enough. I can't do enough. I'm not enough. I've never been enough. How could someone like me do this? Right? Like all those things, especially around your calling, around doing something that is unfamiliar to your family. But when you identify and list the risk, you begin to understand that the risk that you're going to take is really going to help you gain something, right? Because fear wants you to think from a place of what you'll lose. But purpose, and when you start understanding that you're operating from purpose and from a calling, you begin to understand what you're going to gain. And so, yes, you might lose those old friends, but you might gain a new squad. You might lose that job that paid you a comfortable 75K a year, but you might end up making 75K in a month, you know? And so This is where you have to list the risk and understand if you're willing to take it. So what you have to do now is write down every way your calling you believe is to serve God and his people and his children. Write down every reason why you believe what you've been called to do has been called upon you to serve God and serve God's children. Okay, so number one, you had to write down, name, and ask yourself, what has this fear cost me? What has it held me back from? Right? Number two, when you list the risk, you write out every way your calling could serve God and his children. Got it? Okay, this is where it gets fun. In the midst of making that list, you're going to be looking for your aha moment, right? And so when you look for your aha moment, it's going to become clear that, wait, this is why God called me for it. This is what I've been called for. Wow. Right? It literally stands out in your head. And let me tell you mine, because we're going to incorporate how ChatGPT is part of this whole thing. And so, and as I mentioned to you before, this was a revelation that I had. And so it allowed me to say, I understand now. So my prompt, and don't worry about it being order or beautiful or any of those things. I wrote down, so I started my day with making a list of all the ways I believe Block will serve God and his children needs. And I think I understand the number one reason Block will serve the kingdom. Block will allow kingdom kids to occupy territory in new communities and cultures while creatively serving his others' children's needs within a safe space and a sense of belonging. Because traveling equals transformation, and transformation allows us to operate from our calling even greater and more confidently. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts and see if this could be backed up by scripture. So, when you were in step number 3 and you were looking for your aha moment, that was my aha moment. I just shared my aha moment with you guys, right? Like I realized, oh my goodness, I think this is why God is telling me to do Block. And then I listed about 6 things, and it became clear the 6th one. But the getting of the receipts is when ChatGPT gave me its explanation of it. And I'm not going to read everything, but literally this is what it said. Good morning, Samala. Let's just say what you're building with Block sounds kingdom aligned in every sense of the word. And it says, I love how you tied in transformation to travel. Travel to transformation and then transformation into purpose. It's like God is whispering, this is bigger than you. It's about impact. So I want you to have your own moment to where you're realizing, wait, let me get these receipts to see what God has to say about it. So step 4, you ask ChatGPT to back up this one aha moment with Bible. And now once you allow it to back it up with Bible, you don't have a choice as to why you can't show up, because you know that it is bigger than you. This calling is bigger than you. Everything is bigger than you, and you are serving God. So when you go and get your receipts from ChatGPT, this is how you're going to move forward, and I'm going to speed through it, which is called my R.E.A.L framework. You're going to reframe that fear to faith. You're going to empathize with yourself and say, I know I didn't do this right, and I understand that it made me feel this way, but I'm too resilient to stop. And then you're going to align with that why in that Bible and show up accordingly. And then next time, you're going to lead by walking into rooms as if someone sent you. So, R.E.A.L, reframe, empathize, align, and lead. Lead as if you were sent in that room because God did send you. So I want you to remember as we close, you were sent on a mission. You are sent on assignment. Fear has no place here. Fear has no space here. Show up, kill it, be great. I believe in you, and so does God.